Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on our second edition of the Cloud Softphone Tech Tips webinar. With us today, we have Thomas, our CTO here at Acrobits, and Rafael, the Managing Director. We're going to be showing you three important new features today. And as soon as Rafael can share his screen, I'll pass it over to him. I just want to remind everyone that we're doing these webinars every 2 months. The next one, obviously with this December break, will be in March. And after the webinar, we'll send out the recording to everyone and it'll be available on our blog for everyone to rewatch. We'll also have a Q&A open. So on the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll have the option to ask us questions during the webinar and we'll be able to answer them at the end and during the live stream. Thank you everyone for being here and I'll pass it over to you, Rafael.
Yep. Let's see if this works now. So, hey, thanks everyone for joining. I can see quite a lot of people already connected. For those, that's the first time, it's the second time for us, right, doing these webinars. Last one was a very pleasant one. We really managed to show you a lot of things that the company was working on. And today, we're going to do three different things. The first one is we are going to show you and explain you what Acrobits has done with push notifications. The second part is about the UI. You know that our UI it's something that you can customize, but the team has been working intensively on doing a facelift and creating a more modern user interface for all those that use our white label products or not, because not only the full white label has that capability, right, that you can even take more advantage and even expose even better your corporate identity into our apps. And lastly, we're going to discuss about a feature that a lot of people are waiting for, right, which is the multi-party messaging. And Thomas is going to show you what are the challenges, why we haven't implemented that yet, why we are implementing it now, and when we are going to release it, right? This is the three part. I think this webinar should stand for 35 to 40 minutes. Then we're going to go through a QA session, and please don't hesitate to use the QA button here in Zoom, where you can always ask questions. We're going to try to stop, obviously, in between the parts that we're going to show and expose during this webinar to answer to your questions. I'm going to start, obviously, with the push, right? So now, what is this push notification study that we want to introduce to you today? First and foremost, I think it worth going back a little bit on time and explain how Acrobits or what we did really with push notifications. So back in 2007, I think everyone remember when Steve Jobs shows the first iOS and the first iOS 1 release, everyone was blown away. We started a business. It was great for us because at that time, having an application in the stores was good enough as a marketing, to get extremely popular in a very short time. Now, this has changed dramatically, right? And yeah, we need a marketing team to promote what we have. Well, since then, just in 2009, we founded Acrobits. Acrobits has exactly today 14 years of existence, 14, right? So it's a great milestone for us, right? We have done a lot over time. We're not going to discuss that. It's just about push at this point, right? So one of the biggest challenges on mobile devices at that time, were that, first of all, multitasking wasn't existent, right? And the second part, right, is that obviously when you're going to have phone calls, it's easy to place a phone call, right? But to receive them, you need basically to tell to your SIP infrastructure, basically your SIP register, right, that where you are, that you can receive that call, right? So that wasn't possible unless you were playing quite a nasty trick into the operating system, which was basically playing a blank sound, right? And telling the OS that even when you was in the in the background, well, the application was running, right? So the operating system won't kill it, right? So this was the trick that most of our peers were using, but we weren't happy with that, right? We really wanted to do something better, right? And to save the battery on the devices, because imagine back in 2009, already the challenges with the battery if we already have a lot of challenges today just with all these applications and everything that we have to run into our devices, right? So what we did, basically, we tried to come up with a solution. This solution being something that we call SIP-IS or SIPIS, that most of you are using today, is basically receiving push notifications, right? That will make your application coming from the background to the foreground, right? This was done, by the way, for the history, with a company that maybe some of you remember. It was Gizmo 5, that was acquired just after, and they did Google Talk. Google acquired the company, they did Google Talk with it, but we kept basically that implementation within our network. We did it, by the way, with them, because this is how we tested everything, right? And it became this, the push notification done via SIP-IS. So for those that you're using it, of course, right? So for you, it just works, right? It's like magic. You get the call, it's fine, everyone is happy, right? But behind that, there is a lot of engineering, right, that needs to take place, and specifically a piece of software that, again, we call SIPIS. So just refreshing your memory here, I know most of you know how it works, but I want to make the point, because then we're going to go to how we have implemented this without SIP-IIS, or better say, SIP-IIS being fully implemented into the application, right? So the way it works, quite simple, right? When you're not using the application and the iOS device goes to the background, we're going to send the username and the password, you can see here, securely, right, to a server that has a database. This username and password, they will be stored there along with the SIP server where they need to connect to, and they will connect basically to your SIP register, right? So when the device is not in use, then this kind of, I will call it virtual device, right, is going to register on behalf of the device itself, right? Fine. Till there, all is fine. When you're going to receive a call, and the call is going to get the ringing state here into your SIP register, we're going to send the push notification to the device, right? Now in iOS, it works a little bit different because you see the call kit. Everyone see the call kit, so there is no more push. It's like a normal regular call, right? And you can answer to the call. Then the device takes over. It's over, right? Very simple, very straightforward to understand. Still, here, there is a lot of technology involved, right? And I think it's good that you guys understand it a little bit better if you really, maybe you never really went through all these specifications, right? The other thing here is obviously that the push to work needs to transfer the public internet. Here you have the Google Firebase for Android devices and Apple push notification service for Apple. So there is data that will go through the network, right? So another very important thing, right, is that since iOS 10, now we are iOS 16, right? Apple, the only way you can get incoming calls is using VoIP push-kit. That implies that the multitasking that they had till then has been completely, stopped. You cannot. The only way you can get incoming calls is using push, right? So for those that are working in closed environment, that need privacy, that need they cannot expose that for many other legal reasons. There were absolutely no solution. And this is where we're going to go now, right? Sorry. So before discussing in details what VoIP local push notifications are, I'm going to give here few seconds or few minutes to Thomas that will explain as well what we are doing to the SIP ecosystem, right, in terms of capacity, upgrading, and the new things that we are providing to you as a customer. Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah. Thank you, Rafael. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I'm just jumping in with a short announcement, but an important one for our customers and partners that are using our Acrobat SIPIS ecosystem for push calls. So this doesn't apply to customers who have their own SIPIS. So those who rely on our SIPIS ecosystem, please listen. Given the increased demand for our services, we have decided to increase the capacity of our SIPIS cluster by 100%. but there's no reason for concerns. This will be a gradual upgrade that we will start later in November and will probably finish sometime in February. And there will be at maximum 2 short downtimes. We will always send out early enough announcements about the expected downtimes. All the deployments that are planned will be weekend deployments only. So we really try to avoid the rush hours, the office hours. I already said we will be sending out emails before every important step that could cause outage. And another important information is, as we will be adding more machines to our clusters, this means that we will have new IPs of our CPCs. So we ask our customers to please whitelist these new IPs. There are 2 ways to learn about the new IPs. One is available already now. So if you look up the DNS for all.cipis.acrobits.cz, all the IPs will be listed for you, all the new ones and the current ones. So everything is there already now. And also when these new IPs will be activated, we will also send out an email announcement. So thank you for attention, and now let's continue with the introduction of our new local push feature. Passing mic back to Rafael.
Sure, thanks, Thomas. So where do we go now? So as explained it before, into this diagram that was very complete, where you have all these external components, you have the CPIS and so on and so forth. This is all completely reduced if you're operating in a local LAN, right, and restricted network, and all the jobs going to be done by the iOS device itself, right? So basically, the whole implementation logic, our engineers from Acrobits did, I believe, something absolutely incredible right here, is to put all this logic into the device itself again, right? So you don't need any external component. And all the communication, even the pushes, right, are staying inside your network. Absolutely nothing is traversing or going to the internet, right? So important to note, right? And obviously that works only and specifically into restricted network, right? It's important. Why? Because the implementation has been done by Apple to respond to all those customers that were left without any solution after they completely dropped the multitasking, right? So how does it work? I'm going to give you a short demo. I think it's going to be self-explanatory, right? I'm going to share my second screen here, where I have something kind of appealing enough, I guess, that you understand it. So let me move this to the right, this snippet as well. Good. So what do I have here? I have a simple asterisk into my local network, and I have 2 devices with 2 different extensions, right? Here I have the Cloud Softphone app, many of you are using, and I'm going to do this demo with the local CPIS extension here into this iOS device, right? So I have the number 700, which is this one, right? And I have here the number, 701 and 700, right? And as you can see on this UI, you have incoming calls, and here they're set up as local push. This is something that you can test today. You can download the Groundwire app into the app stores and give it a try. It already works, has been deployed, and many users, I think they love it, right? And in that other device that I have, sorry, I'm gonna go back, done, that I have here, we have just another extension that is locally, is a simple Android device. So now, if I'm looking here at asterisks, right? And I look at the, well, I think this is the command, if I remember well, show here, 700. No, it's not the one, sorry about that. Now, show here 700. Okay, that's not the one I want to see. So now we are, right? So you can see I have an extension here that is now using a local push. The extension is in the background, right? If I put the app into the foreground, this extension, right, is becoming available for us, right? And you see that I say with another user agent, right, that is the same peer, uses the same API in another port, right? So basically, when I go to the background, I'm going to re-register using the local push. And this is the interesting part, is that I'm using the exact same local IP. So as stated before, the whole process is into the device itself, right? So let me go back here to the foreground, and I'm going to just place a call that you will all recognize as being a simple call, you know, when you have the app into the foreground, right? I'm just going to decline it here. That's it, right? Now, if I resend the app into the background, this is registering again, and I'm going to send the call, and you will see there is absolutely no delay, and the call is showing you basically the call kit screen when you can answer to your call and do everything that you need to do, right? So important to note again is that here the local push notification is triggered into the local network, right? You can answer to the calls only if you are into a restricted network. And the way it works is that either through the provisioning, which I will show you in a minute, right? Or here in Groundwire, I can instruct here in the local push options, my push SSIDs is what you see here, office, right? If I have several ones deployed into my network, I just separate like with commas, and the application will only and specifically connect to those SSIDs. If they're not instructed here into the settings, this will not work, right? That's how the implementation was done. It's I think the right way, right? And it's easily provisionable as well for all the customers that are using here the Cloud Softphone portal, right? Gonna stop sharing here, and I'm gonna go again to this presentation, because the other important thing is how and why is this useful, right? Why is this useful, right? And this is basically, let me move this to the left, this as well here, and I'm gonna continue here, right? So you do the use cases, right? That's really the most important part, right? Where can you use this? Well, first and foremost in the healthcare, specifically in the United States, where they have these very strong rules for HPAA compliance, right? We already have deployed this in one of the biggest healthcare providers within the United States that have something like more than 500,000 beds. Very simple. They don't want to disclose any information, and all the devices that they're using internally, right, must not communicate outside. That was a requirement. Till today, they had a waiver from Apple, right, that still left them, because they have a substantial amount of devices there running their apps in multitasking, but has stopped, and now they're using basically the implementation that I just showed you, right? Others are obviously data security-centric organizations. Typically, I think many of you know that our technology already secured the the Brussels European Parliament. And this is a very good add-on for them, because obviously nothing goes outside, and it's just even more secure for them, right? Another one, obviously, are the banks, lawyers, and everyone that cannot and don't want to disclose any information to any third party. And obviously local push is the answer. And lastly, this is another very nice use case. We're implementing now an hotel or a chain of hotels that are going to do this. They're going to deliver to their users an application that they can download through the internet. It's going to be their app, but they don't want them to use this outside of the hotel, right? Because it's just for internal comms. So they're going to drop all the cables, they're going to drop all the hardware devices, and now with this implementation, they can truly do this, something they weren't able to do previously, right? So, how to test, finally, for everyone that is running the Cloud Softphone portal and a Cloud Softphone portal app, the best way is to go to the portal and ask to our support team. They will help you, and they will explain you how to configure this. You can test it, as I just showed you, with the ground wire application. And if you have a white label, there is still a little thing to do, is you have to get an entitlement from Apple. Again, our team will help you with that we call the network extension entitlement, that you can use local push notifications into your app, right? So that was it now for the local push. I think we have a couple of questions here before we move on to the rest of the presentation. And I'm going to take one by one and see if we can answer now. So Tony Fernandez is asking, this is most for the desktop app. I think we have Thomas here who is leading all the efforts. He is asking that will screen pops on the desktop client will be available in the future release? I think it does or not, Thomas. Do we have pushes or do we see an information or the pop-up in the desktop app? I think it does.
It's not exactly clear if this question relates to push notifications. I think it's related to
it's more related to the information, right?
How we notify users about incoming calls. I think we recently changed the way how we notify users about incoming calls. There are certain configuration options. And yes, I think the question here is whether the screen pop-up notify with the incoming call is going to return. And I think if that's the question, then the answer is yes. It's going to be in one of the upcoming releases.
Excellent, excellent. Then we have Mike Wall that says, amazing. Thank you, Mike. And glad you understand all the potential of this technology now. So that's the question. I should have shown you this. I'm sorry I didn't. But does the local CPUs run by your feeder continue to work when ISS kills the process from memory pressure? If you kill completely the application, the call will still work. Yes, you're still going to get the push. Correct. It works like the regular push. Yeah. Then we have Tony Fernandez. The question was able to open a CRM or web page on an incoming call.
Oh,
yeah.
I hope I can answer like this. I believe that by the time we have the next webinar, I will be able to share very good news regarding this question.
Yeah, but that's the plan, right? That's exactly the plan, correct?
The CRM integration and in general configurable actions that will either be triggered by the user or will be triggered based on call state. It's a feature that we are planning to bring in early next year.
Yeah, good. So then we have Josh, who is asking a question, I think related mostly to the call quality, or if there is any kind of delay. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rush, but he's asking, I have noticed that my Softphone user CPS registration are connecting to a USN New Jersey-based IP. How does push impact customers that are in other regions? Many of my users are in Latin America. Well, there is no impact, right? Users will connect to CPS from anywhere in the world. The delay is really unnoticeable, right? Because it just really doesn't make sense to start deploying servers in every single country in the world. It's only a push, it's only an information, which is the initial information, but then the call leg is between the app and your servers, right? So there is no impact. That's the answer, and I think that's the question that you want to ask here, right?
The important aspect is that the media goes directly through between the devices. The CPS does not have the purpose of a relay during the call, so everything goes through the direct path between the devices. So the real-time aspect, the media, is not affected.
And then you ask if you can enable local and remote push simultaneously. Well, you can have multiple accounts for that, because usually, you know, the local push, it's gonna, as I said, gonna work only a local push, and it will work typically in a system that is into a local network with no access itself to the internet. That's the idea, right? That's the whole idea of local pushes, right? Now, if you want to have a system that does both, right? Well, one defeats the purpose of the other, but it's a good question. A super answer to that is mostly a topology and a security question here, but why not? I would say why not, right? And then we have another question that is more related to what's coming next, right? That is from Tony again, but we're going to take that just after, right, Tony? Because it's really about the UI and everything else you want to do, right? Good. So let's go now to the rest of the presentation, and I'm going to give you the sharing rights, Thomas, right, that you can move on with all the rest. Thanks again, guys. Speak later. To you, Thomas.
Okay. So moving to our next segment. Actually, this is the first slide. Is everything as expected on the screen, Rafael? Can you please confirm?
Yep. Yeah, it looks good. Looks good.
Yeah. So our next presentation segment will be the new mobile app UI. This is a thing we've been working on in the last couple of months. Actually, you can already see a glimpse of it on the screen right now. We have the Figma designs from the Android versions in the front, and we have the iOS version peeking from behind. But perhaps before we talk about the new UI, we should discuss where we are now and discuss the current UI. The current UI has been around for a couple of years. It's been almost 4 years since we upgraded the UI. So why we are sticking to the current versions for so long? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The first one is that is a robust, stable implementation that we managed to perfect over the years. It's also straightforward to use. Everything is, you know, at the tip of your fingertips. Nothing is hidden, nothing obscure. There is really nothing to understand. You just make calls, messages, conferences, whatever you need. And also the current UI has a very high degree of customization. Our customers can go to our Softphone portal. There's a view, what you see, what you get editor, where they can upload their own logos, icons, they can configure their brand colors and customize much more. So these are all the pluses of the current UI, and we consider this as the starting point. So it's something we want to build upon. So when we are talking about the new UI, before we started the project, we wanted to set a couple of goals, of course, not just, you know, make it more modern. And yeah, so first thing, and the most important, is to keep 100% of the existing features. So that includes calls, video conferencing, all messaging options, and also the very high degree of customization. We also want to stick to the customization model we have today. I know there are services that offer smaller amount of customization, but there are also services where you have almost developer type of level of customization, but that has a couple drawbacks. There's a risk of unexpected bugs, a risk of delays, confusions. You might require human resources for development. So we truly believe the way we manage customization is a very nice balance between the two worlds. Another goal with this new version of the UI is to make the UI look more native to the platform. So an iPhone app should look like an iPhone app, should be familiar to iPhone users, and the same for Android. So Android should blend in well with the Android applications. Often we see in the mobile applications industry that a company starts with the iPhone app, they are easier to launch, they are easier to monetize, and at some point they decide to add an Android app, but they just convert the iPhone UI and put it on Android device. But basically that doesn't, you know, that worsens the user experience for the users who are accustomed to things, how they work on Android. And the final goal I would like to mention here is that we are migrating the Android code to Kotlin. It's a thing that many other companies do these days. Kotlin is becoming the #1 language, or has already become. The thing that we expect from this is that the new rewrite should even further improve the Android app UI performance. So those were the goals. And now I think we can go straight to the update, where we are now and what have we achieved. And yeah, I have a slide prepared here, but perhaps we'll move to something different. And that is my iPhone screen here. So here in the dock, I have a couple apps, and one of them is our Cloud Softphone app with the new UI. Yeah, so at first sight, it's a difference. It's a minimalist, but still intuitive UI. Everything that you would expect from a Softphone and everything you know from the previous version is there. We have our tabs, we have quick dial, we have context keypad, and so on. We also have link up conferencing. I might be able to launch a conference now. And it's not just about how it looks like, it's also designed with customization in mind. Because we built a new customization system, a new design system actually. So the way we share design decisions within Acrobates has changed. We are now sticking to a system called the design tokens. Hello, hello, hello everyone. So that also affects the way the new design editor in the Cloud Softphone portal will work. It will, we know that the white label experience is very important for our customers. So first, we are making the customization easier than ever. There will be an option to just configure a couple values representing your brand colors, and these brand colors will basically be applied to every screen in the application. So we can go to settings, and still we have the Acrobates brand colors here. I can go to quick dial. I can toggle between the modes. Yeah, so that's the new improvement in terms of customization. So every screen will show the brand colors. Another improvement is this little logo that we have in the top left corner. So this is the first time we have the customer or the brand place for the brand logo on the main screen. So you don't have to, you know, find places, customize backgrounds. It's basically a designed position for the logo. And another improvement in terms of customization that this time will be, this version will be the first one where your customization will be also applied on the call screen. So your brand colors will be there as well. So all these three improvements that I mentioned, we came up with them so that our customers can even further reflect their brand identity in this application. The way this is going to be configured, again, through our Cloud Softphone portal, through a new editor, which might be familiar to customers that are using the desktop app today. So this will be the new modern editor with just other benefits as well, but I won't go deep into the details today. So I think I can say, you know, Acrobates has been a pioneer in the industry of mobile communications. And I think with this version, we stay true to our roots. I'm really amazed. And perhaps now that we introduced what we are working on and what we have, we can say a few words about the actual rollout. So I'll go back to our presentation. So this was the update, and yeah, not good. So I forgot one major point, and that is this is the first time we also support the dark and light theme switching. So perhaps let's do that. I can show it right now. So there are people that love light theme and never change the default, but there is also many dark theme lovers out there. And honestly, I don't want to play favorites, but I don't mind if you lean towards the dark versions. I really love the contrasty look of it. So yes, this will be also the first time we support light and dark switching. And now we can really continue in the presentation as it has been prepared, and we can discuss the rollout. So that was the demo and the rollout. So we want to start early next year, sometime around February. We would like to launch the new UI to our Acrobits Softphone and Groundwire applications. So they will be published to the app stores. And then the update on our Cloud Softphone platform will follow. I already mentioned that the way the apps will be designed, the designer itself will change dramatically. We will try to apply as many resources that we already have from our customers and use that in the new version, but there will certainly be input required from our customers. So that means we have to notify our customers ahead so that they can modify their designs and plan their releases. This is going to be simple for white label app customers, as their release process is basically independent of other applications, so they can truly update at their own pace. Then we have also the generic app customers. They will have receive a special announcement later in the spring 2023. We will send out an email where we will mention a deadline of 2 months, and after the 2 months period will expire, we will launch the generic app to the store. So by that time, generic app customers should preferably update their designs as well. But everything should go smoothly. We will provide test flight builds or ad hoc builds where applicable, and we will also provide applications for sideloading on Android. So your new designs can be tested with the new UI. And lastly, this is going to be perhaps a big change for some, but the new way how the design and customization operates is planned so that future updates are way smoother, and we can do small things, modernize the design as we go. Mobile design changes every year, even so, if not as fast as before. So minor changes will be much easier to do in the new UI. And I think we can return back to our questions now.
Let me grab them, and I'm going to go one after the other, Thomas. Tony Fernandez is asking about the desktop client, if we do improvement and change. You can answer, of course. Every single application that we have here at Acrobits is a constant work in progress, nothing can be static. And of course, we are working already on enhancing this app. I think we went through a lot of demos last webinar, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a constant work in progress, right? We take feedback, we try to improve the way it works, we try to accommodate as well to use cases for all the different applications that we have to provide to our customers. A desktop app can be used through a CRM, can be used, into a call center, can be used in many different places, right? Obviously, our main focus has always been really on the UC world, but we have asked queries from many other places, especially in the call center industry, right? And we know we have to adapt a little bit the UI and the way it works. That's what we're doing. We try, to take this enormous feedback that people are constantly giving us. But as well, as Thomas just said before, our most important, I will say, the most important thing for us is to keep the quality of this software. We want to give you guys the most stable possible tool for your clients. We really strive to give you a worry-free business. That for you, it needs to be a worry-free app, for you, a worry-free business. And to do so, right, changes have to be done with a lot of care, always, 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 because when we change something into an app, obviously it will spread to the other 700 apps that we have into the platform, right? So we go very carefully, but that doesn't mean that we don't, we don't move, right? And we move. I hope I managed to answer your question. You want to add something, Thomas?
No, I think you summed it up really well.
Okay.
The desktop app is evolving. We listen to feedback and try to improve it all the time. And
Yeah.
I think we can say that every update that we release is a major upgrade, and especially the one that is coming early next year. There's going to be a lot of great improvements. So something to look forward.
Good. An interesting question here. Can we stay with the existing UI, or are we obliged to move to the new UI? I think this is a marketing question too, because we understand that a lot of you that have this application, you have marketing content that you're deploying, you're going to have to deploy a new one. Of course, it's always a little bit painful. A good note here is that our marketing team for this new UI, for as well the white label conferencing that we introduced last webinar, right? They are basically they're going to provide two things to you. One is a complete user manual that you can customize online, put your colors, your brand, and everything like it was you. It's going to be translated to. We're using a platform to do so, right? And this is going to be the case for the conferencing application, for the desktop application, and for the mobile app. And this is something that they're going to release when we're going to do all these changes, because we understand it's always, we're a white labeling company, right? If we do a manual, obviously, if it's static, it's not worth it because you're going to have to change everything, right? So we really try it with new technical writers that are part of the team now to get you something that you can as well customize in an easy way, that you don't have to spend hours and hours doing your own stuff. So this is something that will come, right? For your question now, precise, Thomas, can they stay for a certain time or forever with the old UI without moving to the new one? There is no necessity to do so for them.
This really depends on the feature set they are on. If this is a white label applications, I think there is, no way we can force anyone to update. So there will be a long grace period. For generic app customers, it's, as I said, we will give early enough announcements, and I think everyone should have plenty of time to upgrade. We listen to feedback, we try to be sensitive, we understand there's more to it than just launching a new app to the stores.
Okay. Good. There's a lot of questions, guys. We're not running out of time, but we need to move to the next one. So I'm going to take two interesting ones, and then at the end, we're going to obviously answer to all of them. There's plenty. If we can't, because we really want to strive for an hour here, we answer all of them through the QA section that we send with all the data, including the recording and everything, to everyone that was here. Maybe the last question before we go to the multi-party messaging is an interesting question all in all, because a lot of people came with that question already. It's not really related, but I think it's an important point that we can make here, and it's really about ads and privacy, right? A customer of ours is asking if will you bringing back some of the Google Ads features in new app, specifically tracking Google Play Store campaigns and passing in variables to Firebase. It's a tricky question because because of the way the world is going, the privacy that the OS money, builders like, Google are putting today. Privacy has become extremely tricky. They're extremely afraid or getting chased, by the regulators, and they're making our life and the developers' life really nearly impossible when it comes to that. A good example was the contacts lately, that they wanted to put a lot of things. I don't know if some of you remember that to make the user certain that we are not manipulating the contacts, where the only thing that we're doing is to basically showing the contacts that are in the phone. That's a good example. But can you tell more about the tracking and the ads, Thomas?
Yeah, there are two sides of it. One is the privacy question. There is also, I would say, question of our reputation, because we had to remove certain trackers in the past, because we heard complaints that our application is integrated with certain services that for example, Meta. So some people were not happy about it. So we had to remove and really reduce the scope. And regarding Firebase, I think there is. We still support tracking certain events. There wasn't no definitive plan to enhance this functionality, but I think it's always best to specify your use case and create a ticket in our Cloud Softphone portal. Explain your use case, and we will consider that. We always go through these and listen to feedback.
Okay, good. Maybe the last question here, and then we really need to move to the next part, right? Interesting question from Josh as well. Nice UI. Does the new brand logo feature for Softphone require white label package? So it's asking if this is going to be available for the full future, and any other package then is not full white labeled.
This is a tricky question. What is the answer?
It is. Well, the answer is really about mostly it's a business question, right? It's something that we have been debating here, right? Because at the end, the white label package is the premium one, but there is not a definitive answer to it. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't, it's the logo that you will see into the app, not into the dashboard, right? But yeah, it's an open discussion. It's really an open discussion. If you have an app, Josh, just go there and re-ask the question into the portal, and we'll give you a more precise answer. But it's an interesting question for sure. Yeah. Good. So let's move to the next part. And again, Jens, I'm sorry, there is a lot of questions coming. We're really going to move on now with the multi-party messaging. A lot of people are waiting for this, right? And then we're going to go again for another 5-10 minutes. And if we don't have time to answer to all of them, I promise really that you're going to get those answered through our blog.
Yeah.
Please continue, Thomas.
Yeah, so let's kick off with the next segment, and that is my update on multi-party messaging, or messaging at Acrobits in general. And we started with a quote. So if you don't have experience building multi-party messaging platforms, don't even try to build one yet. So I quote here, I say it's from some article on Medium. It's not certain, but it's from the time when we started off our new multi-party messaging project, and we will reading through resources, documentations, articles, and I ran into this idea, and basically this is the gist of it. So yeah, we know it's no secret, building communication technology is challenging, especially in this environment where everything that is not perfect is not good enough. But I believe we know what it takes to get things right. We have an experienced team, so we decided to take on the challenge. And similar, no, sorry, yeah, opposite this direction. Yeah, similar to the previous segment, we kick off a summary of the current situation of messaging in our Softphone platform. So as of today, we offer 3 client-side options. First one is actually, the first one mentioned here is actually a bucket of options. I call them the CSP specific implementations. There's a couple of them, and the feature set varies depending on the specific one. Then we support SIP simple. It is simple, but it's surprising how many features you can support with it. It's very powerful, but there is one significant drawback, and that is there is no message persistence. And then we have our most popular options, and that is our Acrobit's HTTP messaging protocol, a one that relies on 2 types of request: fetch, that is basically has the purpose to fetch your message history, fetch message history updates, and send request to send messages, send updates, send delivery receipt, and so on. And also it relies on our push ecosystem. Then the features that we support today, I think all of the features mentioned here are supported on all the options we have on the left. Talking about specifically HTTP messaging, of course, it supports rich messaging, so you can share media files, you can share documents. We also support disposition notifications, so read and delivery receipts. We support message deletion, either local or server side, and we even support message auto destruction for people like 007. And then the situation regarding the server side. So as of today, Acrobits does not provide a backend for the messaging implementation. We support documentation, we advise our customer, we consult, we can even offer human resources for development from a third-party firm. And we also provide services, support services like our store and forward service for message attachments, and we also offer our push ecosystem. Yeah, so if you look at this now, at the situation as it is now, it looks like we have the client-side solution, and all we lack is the server side. And it also might seem like, you know, we've built LinkUp, you know, very complex architecture, very complex product, and actually messaging is part of it. In a way, it's group messaging. So looks like we have all the pieces, right? So why not just plug it in and have the feature ready next week? Well, the situation is a little different. Multi-party messaging, it turns out, is way more complex than one-to-one messaging. And there's a couple of ways to look at the increased complexity when compared to one-to-one messaging that we have today. First is the data part. So in case of multi-party messaging, we have to capture more complex relationships between the users. We need to be able to answer queries like, who are the members of a group A? What are their push tokens to deliver push notifications to them? And so on. We also need to store documents, which is common for both, but with multi-party, there's certainly more events and more information to store. Then we have the aspect of data query complexity. If I send a message to Rafael in one-to-one conversation, there will be linear amount of requests. The message will be sent to Rafael. That's one request. Then he will send me the delivery receipt, read receipt. So it's all linear. But in multi-party, it gets more complicated. We have more requests by definition. We have more users. And we also have certain features where the complexity of request and the amount of requests grows quadratically, like the disposition notification. Basically, every member has to send a receipt to every other member. Luckily, we have solutions for these problems. The relationships typically can and best can be captured in a relational database. However, what we are dealing with here is a messaging platform for very popular communication platform, Softphone. So we expect a large amount of users. And in a scenario like this, a relational database can easily become a bottleneck. Luckily, we have modern solutions like white column databases that can operate on denormalized models, optimized for reading, optimized for writing. And yeah, so why not use that, right? And we also have cloud native applications. So why not plug these in and we are done? Well, the situation is like this. The most popular databases, the white column ones, they charge you per every request, which isn't a problem in one-to-one especially, but in group messaging where the amount of requests can really grow quadratically, the pay per request aspect can become easily unfeasible. So in the end, we have to balance features, the architecture complexity, and cost. Luckily, we have a very experienced team. We led many long discussions, and we have to often come up with innovative solutions to the problems. And luckily, we are able to come up with an architecture that can solve all these problems and keep the costs reasonable. And this was achieved by combining multiple technologies. So we use AWS Dynamo to store message data. We also rely heavily on Redis to relieve the strain from the relational database that we use, and to reduce the amounts of requests that we post to Dynamo. And since we have this complex architecture and we expect a high load, high throughput, we use Kafka to orchestrate all the processes to the various nodes and the requests as they're coming. So this was the architecture. And what are our goals for next year? What we want to bring? So the system that we have designed, the plan is for it to be as easy to activate as never before. So basically, customers that use other services like LinkUp today or Contact Sync, for them, it's going to be truly one click in our platform and everything will automatically appear on their devices. What will be the scope of the messaging? So we want to start with internal messaging for authorized users, so fully on a net, with the plan that we might look for off-net solutions in the future as well. We want to support large groups to reinforce collaboration, creativity, connectivity, and we start with groups of up to 16 people. We also know that to enable collaboration, we need a robust solution that allows you to share documents and media files. So rich messaging will also be included. And we, of course, expect this to work with all your devices. So if you use our desktop app and an Android app or iPhone app, all the messages and all the conversation will be synchronized across all your devices. So that is our plan for next year. We believe the new system will be available in spring 2023. And that was my update regarding the messaging. And I think we can go back to the questions.
Thank you, Thomas. Well, we have 1 minute left, so I think any questions that were left unanswered will be answered on our blog, and we'll be sending out a recording of this live stream via email to everyone who assisted tomorrow. We'll also post it on our blog in the following days, so look out for that. And we have all your questions written down, so we'll just answer them on the blog later on. Thank you.
Yeah, just emphasizing, gents, thank you very, very much for coming to this webinar. This is an exercise again that we are going to do as often as we can. The pace should be at least once per quarter, as well as depend of what we have to say. We don't want to do webinars just to do webinars. I hope you enjoy using our technology. I hope you enjoy the new features that we showed you today. I really invite everyone to test this new local push notification because it really gives you some very, a tasty advantage against any of your competitors. There is no one in the world that has done that we have done here, basically putting the whole logic into the device. And I do strongly believe that with privacy coming more and more strong into the world, it's going to be a big advantage and a big differentiator for you to compete into this market. So thanks again. Have a wonderful end of the day, wherever you are in the world. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Thomas. Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
thanks, everyone for putting this together. And I will see you next time. See you later. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
It's a pleasure. Bye-bye. A good one.